Town and Province is made possible by a local journalism initiative grant from the Community Radio Fund of Canada, a program supporting the creation of original civic journalism through Heritage Canada.
I'm Nathalie Sturgeon, and welcome to Town and Province. My guest today, for the first time, is the Mayor of the Municipal District of St. Stephen, Steve Backman. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm really pleased to be here.
Yeah, this is the first Town and Province. Even before it was Town and Province, your town matters for St. Stephen.
Wow, so there's no pressure at all.
None.
I've got to set the bar.
You're going to nail it, I promise. So we'll start with the mandate that you and the council were given. It's a very strong mandate. Great turnout, almost a clean slate, apart from Councillor or Deputy Mayor Greenlaw. What do you hope to achieve? What are those priorities that you're looking at over the next 4 years?
So, so it was a very strong mandate, and the message was very clear. People wanted more accountability, they wanted more transparency, and they wanted us to develop a strategy to deal with some of the major concerns, like housing, the elevating crime level, economic development, and community cohesiveness. So all those things came across very strongly from the people in our community.
Do you think it was purely a desire for change, or were the issues stronger than the desire for a different composition of council?
Yeah, I think the desire of change was part of it, but I don't think it's the whole story. I think people are just looking for to address issues which some of them were backburnered because of financial constraints, and there's lots of reasons for it. I don't hold anybody accountable in the previous council for some of these issues that have come up, but people really want to send a strong message to get those jobs done, and they've entrusted us, so I hope we live up to their expectations.
I'm going to start with infrastructure. Municipal staff have had presentations about water and sewer infrastructure and the challenges. How urgent is that situation, and what would be what is your current plan for achieving some of the things that need to be achieved to get it on the right track? So
yeah, infrastructure is a big concern for mine because of my previous history. I recall infrastructure was a problem 25 years ago, and it's still happening. It's part of we've got together as a council and we started a long-term strategic plan. And so one of the pillars of that strategic plan is infrastructure. And we haven't got any solutions yet because we've just started discussing it, but clearly having water, drinkable, safe, potable water that's consistent into the future, it underpins all our development. If you don't have water coming to your town residents, you really don't have a town. So that's key infrastructure. Of course, roads are always on somebody's radar. Everybody wants a paved street and a nice sidewalk. The previous council, invested $5 million right now, and they're starting to see some of that benefit. We'll have to develop a longer-term plan to address the rest of the streets and water infrastructure.
And King Street is beautiful now. It's this smooth, and you're right at $5 million, and they've sort of prioritized it based on the scale. Do you foresee spending more money on water and sewer infrastructure in the next year or so? Like, how do you see that fitting into the budget?
Well, the budget, we haven't started the budget review process yet, but clearly we need to do a longer plan. We'll continue to put out fires, fix broken mains and things like that. But I would really like to see us to get together to get a 30-year plan, measure the time frame of all the existing assets and come up with a strategic plan to fix those assets before they reach the end of their life. And people complain about streets, but as soon as you fix them, they go away. But if you really want to hear a complaint, turn on your tap and get muddy water, or turn on your tap and get no water. And then there's going to be a reckoning, which I don't want to face.
I want to turn quickly to governance. Your council has decided to reinstate committees, and I think that's very interesting. I wonder why you wanted to have specific committees and why that was important to this council.
Well, it's important for two reasons. One, it was raised during the election, and so people asked for more input. Their perception was, even though it probably wasn't completely accurate, their perception was that everything was done behind closed doors and people didn't get an opportunity to give their input or address their concerns. So our solution to that is to bring people into the decision-making process. And that's why we've started establishing these committees. I mean, we'll be organizing several different types. One will be internal, which deals with, personnel matters and things which is protected under confidentiality rights. And then there will be those committees which involve citizen input, and then there'll be those committees which are entirely driven by citizens, with one councillor or two councillors representing just to collect the information.
And do you foresee any challenges with that in terms of, maybe the general public maybe not understanding where your constraints are in terms of your mandate?
Yeah, there's that challenge, which is, clear, because even our councillors are struggling right now understanding how they fit into the overall process and, getting into the weeds, which as a councillor we're not supposed to do. We're supposed to be setting overarching policy and then trusting our staff to fulfill those policy goals. Citizens will probably have the same type of constraints, but also the bigger you make the committees and the more committees you create, and we're creating a number of them, it'll slow the process down because you have more opinions and you have to reconcile those opinions and create a strategy which you may not get consensus, but you'll get a democratic solution which says the majority of people want this as their solution. And that'll take more time because you have to deal with all those arguments.
And training. You told me at the swearing-in ceremony that everybody was going to training, and 550 people attended the provincial training, so a 94% attendance rate on the part of local governments in this province. What was training like? Sort of what was the feeling? What did you learn?
Well, the training was really, really well done, and I was very impressed by the speakers, and it really started to help councillors and mayors understand their roles in municipal government. So, we're not getting into the weeds. We don't, if somebody complains about a pothole, it's not our responsibility to call up the director of works and say, you didn't fix that pothole tomorrow, get down there and do it now. We heard that was very inappropriate, and there's really, really good reasons for that. The town manager is responsible to implement the operational plan, and if he's got his crew doing something like fixing a major water break and a councillor goes in and takes the crew off that water break to fix a pothole, I mean, that has huge implications for cost and service. So it's important that we stay within our lane and we oversee the administration and make sure that they are living up to our expectations.
Was there anything that surprised you about the legislation, about the role, about council in New Brunswick?
Not really, because I've been there before. But I think what surprised a number of councillors is that division of responsibilities and division of roles. And it took them a while to kind of wrestle with that and figure out their place. And we're still wrestling with that. We're 3 weeks into our mandate, and everybody wants to get going and get things done. But there are some constraints and there's some rules we have to abide by. As much as we may not like to, those are the rules that we're living within. Yeah.
And you and I have sort of talked about the double-edged sword of having a new council. This is a new, fresh council with lots of strong opinions and policies that they sort of want to move forward in economic development. I know Councillor Best is working with the International Homecoming Parade Committee. Can you talk to me about that? Sort of, it's going to be, maybe not a smooth road, but a path toward learning what is and isn't going to work.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. So all 6 of them are like, I describe them as racehorses being loaded into the stall, and they're just bouncing, ready for the starting gun to go. And they really want to get involved and really get things done, but they also have to kind of pull that enthusiasm in a little bit and realize, we need to get some structure in place. So we need to be able to have a strategic plan. We can't do everything in 4 years. So we've spent a day last week as a council with our administration to try to come up with some basic strategy in which we're going to tackle first. And so our strategy really involved, we had four key pillars for our strategy. One was infrastructure, which we talked about. Communications, that was a big election thing. People want to know what's going on and they want to be communicated with. So that is going to be one of the key pillars of our next 4 years, is developing a good communication strategy. You mentioned it earlier, effective government. So how do we make ourselves more effective, more efficient, and get things done faster? And lastly, and probably most importantly, which was probably the most vocal message we heard during the election, was community wellness and safety.
Mm. And we'll turn to that right now. Homelessness has been an issue that has sort of is hanging over the town a little bit because you're sort of handcuffed a little bit in what you're able to do in terms of addressing that issue outside of increasing development, reducing red tape. How do you plan? What are the steps that you're going to take in these initial months to address homelessness and public safety?
So I think our first strategy is to get a better understanding of the problem itself. I mean, people talk about homelessness, but it's really not just homelessness. We're lumping three key issues under the homelessness banner and trying to fix it with a silver bullet or a one solution. And it's not working. It's clearly not working, and the problem is actually getting worse, I think. So what our first strategy is, we'd like to get a meeting with the relevant ministers and have a good, frank discussion about this is what's happening in St. Stephen. These are the issues that were raised during our election, and let's work towards a solution that we can all live with. And homelessness is part of it. Simply building housing could probably solve some of the homelessness issues, but we have the crime and the addiction and the mental health components, which are all interlaid within that whole process. So we need to develop a plan to address not only homelessness, but we need to address, addiction. We need mental health counseling. We need to bring those services to our healthcare system. We need to develop a system for dealing with the crime and getting that crime off the streets and having, getting the bad people that are causing the problem out of the community and so that our law-abiding citizens feel safe to walk the streets at dusk and night and not be afraid of being chased or harassed. So those are all issues that we have to deal with, and we don't really have a solution yet, but we're going to do our best to try to at least make a stab at it.
Yeah, I don't think you're the only community that is facing that problem and sort of grappling with the idea that the solution isn't one quick answer. Transitional housing was sort of coming into the end of the last council's mandate. Yeah. Do you foresee this council being able to push forward transitional housing, or are you looking for another solution in the community?
I think transitional housing may be part of the solution, but again, transitional housing will support a very small component of that group. And to say that, well, we've done the emergency shelter, that was an emergency step. Clearly it's not solving the problem, and in some ways it may be adding to the problem. Transitional housing will maybe solve a small component of the problem, but if you think just adding transitional housing at this point is going to solve it, I think we'll be disappointed. So we really need to develop a bigger strategy that addresses some of these other issues, and then we can start moving forward and kind of getting back to our safe, happy community.
I mean, lumping in all of those things, do you think that municipalities have been left carrying too much of the responsibility for social issues that traditionally are the province's responsibility?
Absolutely. I'll say that right up front. We don't, as a small community, we have a very small tax base. Our annual budget's $14 million, and that's for everything. We really don't have, the financial resources, nor do we have the professional resources to deal with most of these issues. We don't have any mental health services in St. Stephen, and that's a key underpinning component of a lot of these issues. We don't have the we have law enforcement, but we don't have law support. So what happens when you get arrested and put to jail? You don't go to jail, you're released, you come back to town, you can recommit the same crimes. How do we get those people into a situation where they can be helped, treated, and made good citizens, as opposed to continually falling back into the same model that's got them in the trouble in the first place?
It's again, governance is sort of always a double-edged sword. How do you foresee balancing those vulnerable people who do need your help as an elected official, but also public safety, right? Think about, the restaurant that was very publicly, faced a robbery, right?
Yeah.
How do you balance those two things equitably?
Well, I'm not sure we have to balance them equitably. I think we need to focus on the people that are being victimized by crime. And so some of those victims are maybe the people that are committing the crimes, but if we can get them help, but we got to get them off the street and away from this very circumstances that are creating the problem. So that's really where I would look to the province and even the federal government to step up and help with those kind of deep-seated, very expensive, very difficult to manage concerns that we are simply not equipped to deal with.
I'm going to turn the page now.
Yeah.
Economic development has been a very strong point for St. Stephen over the last, I would say, probably year. You've got an apartment building coming, a hotel coming. How does that, do you think, change the face of this community as it moves forward?
Well, I think it gives optimism. So, every community, every community has these kind of problems, and, problems can be solved. And once the problems are solved, people forget they actually have them. So by creating optimism, you create a belief that the problem can be solved, and then that gives you much more emphasis or oomph to be able to get that problem solved. If you believe it can be solved, it'll be solved. If you don't believe it can be solved, you'll find 1,000 ways to torpedo yourself and not solve the problem.
The previous council developed, incentives for development, incentives for the hotel. Do you believe that was the right path forward, and do you see those incentives staying in play?
I do. I think, we're all communities are competing for a limited number of investors and developers, and so they're going to go where they get the best return on their investment, and we have to recognize that. And I think I like the way our incentive plan is structured, because it's not upfront. It's not upfront incentives. It's we'll try to deal with the red tape and move that out of the way, which is really important. And then secondly, once you get it constructed, then then you get your rewards. Giving money up front and have them go away just makes you lose money, and we don't want to do that.
Right. It's tailored to specific goals met by the developers.
That's right. Yeah.
The hotel is going to open a lot of doors for the community as well. And I think I asked you this at the hotel opening about, specifically about the county moose.
Yeah.
That is a great addition to the community. But I know that last year it was challenged because there isn't a hotel locally. Yeah. How do you think that changes things, not only for the hockey team, but also for tournaments and things like that can now come to St. Stephen and stay?
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. And I hope that once the hotel is up and running, we find that we need a second one. And, with the basketball court coming together and, the county moose, and maybe we'll get more activities, maybe a few concerts, other things where people will want to come and stay. And getting them to stay overnight is really great for the whole downtown, because it gets them there one more day to spend, as opposed to being the drive-through town on the way to see the Bay of Fundy in Nova Scotia, which when my wife was a customs officer, that was the question she had. We're on the way to Nova Scotia to see the Bay of Fundy. And she would say, look to your right. There's the Bay of Fundy.
Yeah, I mean, there's often a lot of attention to some of the issues that you're facing with public safety and housing. But how much optimism does it give you that we have all of these things that are showing success? You've got development, you've got a little bit of economic prosperity. Even the downtown, I think on Milltown Boulevard, you've got that property on Milltown Boulevard that's being, renovated, and it's going to look beautiful. Does that give you a sense of hope and optimism for the community?
Absolutely, and I think the community you almost feel that sense when you walk downtown now, that that building's coming together. There's we still have a lot of holes in our front street. But I'm hoping that as people start to see things happening, that will attract more investors to invest in more buildings, create more opportunities for small business, because really small business is where our future is. It's great to try to say, well, I want to get a job with 500 people employed, but those are few and far between, and if we just focus on those alone, we'll miss the opportunity with small business, who really builds the vibrancy in your downtown community.
I'm going to move to provincial relations and even to some degree federal relations. Yeah. Obviously, the working relationship between the levels of government has to really work in order to achieve a lot of the things that communities want to achieve. What are the two issues that you'll be bringing to both levels of government in your first year?
Well, the first year, of course, right up front will be the community safety and community, housing type programs, and we're really. Housing is something that's really important. We've focused on low income and ultra low income subsidized housing, but we in St. Stephen need all levels of housing. So we really want to also focus on bringing some of the higher levels of housing to St. Stephen and get some of those things built so we can support business development. Like if say, one of our larger businesses is wanting to hire, engineers or professionals or those kind of people, they're going to be looking for housing. We want to make sure that we have housing to support their arrival as well. So we need to balance out our housing program and build multiple types of housing, from deeply affordable through to very high-end type of housing, so that we can attract everybody.
I know you're a bit of a passenger on the collaborative care clinic.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, how you see yourself advocating for that. Horizon is pretty adamant that patient days are starting in January 2027. It is considerably delayed from the promise that was made. I wonder how you see yourself advocating for that.
We are definitely going to be pushing to have that clinic open as soon as possible. Now, we all understand what construction delays are like and how sometimes getting contractors, we saw that with the CT scan, we saw that with our X-ray installation, we saw it with the first hotel project. I mean, those things happen, and we're not going to hold, people and blame them for those things. They're just facts of life that you have to deal with. But we want to make sure that that collaborative clinic is high on the focus list to get it done and to get it staffed. I mean, building a building is one thing, but you still need the professional staff to deliver the services.
Have you heard angst from the community about the clinic?
I've heard comments about why isn't it opened yet. I mean, and that's a question for the project manager, and it would be great to have regular updates on that clinic. So if you're doing a project, that the town's informed, the people are informed, they know when they can expect to get a physician or a nurse practitioner, or at least some kind of health care provision that which is better than the online service that we're getting now.
I think I sort of know the answer to this question, but do municipalities in New Brunswick have the funding that they need to do what they need to do right now in the province of New Brunswick?
Money is always tight. And like I say, our budget is about 14 million, and some of that goes to service the debt, even the debt for the new road construction. So that comes right off the top, and then we're left with trying to do $25 million worth of work on a $14 million budget. So yes, we do need more resources allocated.
The province is going to introduce a vacant land levy. Do you see that helping in the way that it's intended to help? Do you think that will be something that will actually give municipalities a bit more financial prosperity?
I hope so. I don't know if you don't have any vacant lands, then it's not going to help you. We happen to have a little bit of an abundance of vacant properties, so it may help some. But my real goal is to get rid of those vacant properties and replace them with something that actually generates tax revenue, so and brings people here. So if we have a shortage of housing, we have these vacant lots. Let's put housing in those vacant lots.
Yeah, and the other component that I think the Union of Municipalities has started to advocate for is the industrial tax, to just be handed down to the communities in which those industries exist. Yeah. Is that something that you would support as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
More money is always good.
More money is always good, and and our municipalities, our source of income is one group, people who own property within the municipality. And so they are, anything that we want to do, we go to their pockets. And that's, and eventually, I mean, they're not going to be, we're going to be taking more out of their pocket than they're putting in. And we don't want to get to that point.
We're getting close to the end of the show, and I just want to ask you one final question. 4 years from now, if you can put yourself in those shoes, what headline would you like to see written about your time as mayor?
I would say St. Stephen has found itself, and it's blossoming and on the track to prosperity.
Thanks for joining me today.
Oh, thank you. It's been a really fun. Time went by fast.
I know, and you did it very well. My guest today has been the mayor of the Municipal District of St. Stephen. Thanks for watching. I'm Nathalie Sturgeon.